Hello, it's Philip, and this is the Bear Den, where we talk about bears, wildlife, and the people and organisations making a difference for them. We've obviously been trotting around the globe in recent episodes, but now we head back to where it all started, namely the Vince Shute Wildlife Sanctuary. The inspiration for this episode is in the name, wildlife. So we're primarily known as a bear sanctuary, but there are a multitude of other species that frequent the sanctuary. Sandhill cranes, blue jays, ravens, eagles, goldfinches, pine martens, beavers, wolves, and a plethora of others. So I thought it would be nice to include an episode focusing on another visitor to the sanctuary, and also spotlight another Minnesota-based NGO. So today, let's talk owl about owls. There are many species of owl that pass through the sanctuary, such as the barred owl and the great grey owl in the winter. Sidebar, for birders, about an hour's drive from the sanctuary is the Saxon Bog, a nature reserve with a magical mix of habitats, which is known as the place to find northern owls and finches in winter, and warblers and other boreal birds in summer. But we are flying further down to Houston, Minnesota. And today we are being joined by Karla Bloem, Executive Director of the International Owl Center. The centre's mission is to make the world a better place for owls through education and research, and is the only all-owl education and research centre in the United States. Karla shares her background working with raptors and how the International Owl Centre came about, including some of the owl personalities at the centre, such as Alice, the queen bee owl. Karla has also spearheaded some trailblazing research in the area of owl vocalisations, many of which you will hear demonstrated with aplomb. And we discuss owl biology, the International Festival of Owls, as well as plans for a new facility with walk-through aviaries, and ways people can live more owl-friendly lives by avoiding harmful practices like poison use and protecting natural habitats. Basically, anything you need to know about owls is here. We also discuss owls' cultural impacts across the world, and I'm so awed by the amount of owl information one person can contain. We will be back to chatting about bears next week, but I hope you enjoy this for now. It's a great informative chat, and I really enjoyed hearing about the different reactions to owls from across the globe. So we now go over to Karla to hear if the owls are, or are not, what they seem. There is a place in the remote northwoods of Minnesota, North America. It's located near the town of Orr, population approximately 300. Outside of this town is an area where normal rules are put to one side. It's a place where humans and wildlife meet. It's a special place, wholly unique and not without its controversies. This is the Vince Shute Wildlife Sanctuary, run by the American Bear Association, ABA for short. The ABA is dedicated to promoting a better understanding of black bears and all wildlife through education, observation, and experience. I'm your host, Philip Stubley, and welcome to the Bear Den. So yeah, first of all, I always quite like to get everyone to introduce themselves and just tell us where you're speaking to us from, because we get people from all over, so it's always nice to get some context.
Okay. I'm Karla Bloem, talking to you from Houston, Minnesota, which is way in the southeastern corner of Minnesota. Most people don't know there's a Houston in Minnesota because it's less than 1,000 people, so very small.
Well, that's still bigger than some of the towns I've come across. Like, I've had population 300 in some of the places, so it's like triple the size almost.
Right, we're huge compared to that.
Yeah. And so what's your background? Like, how did you get into owls, essentially?
I didn't intentionally get into owls, actually. My interest was birds of prey in general, so more hawks and things, because I grew up on a farm down here in Houston County. And when I was out raking hay, the hawks would always follow me around because I was scaring up things for them to eat. So that's kind of what piqued my initial interest in birds of prey. And I trapped gophers, and sometimes they'd steal my gophers out of my traps and things like that. So I was in 4-H and did the wildlife project and went to college for biology and worked under an ornithologist. So got more into birds, met a falconer. So after college, I did falconry for just a bit. But was working as a naturalist. And then, I was living in Houston, Minnesota, no jobs in my field, basically in the county. So I'm commuting all over the place. And 2 years out of college, the city of Houston is planning to have the Root River Bike Trail be extended there. And they have to plan what the trailhead is going to be because literally it's a blank slate because they were redoing the levee. So it was reclaimed farm fields. And the citizen group said, hey, we want it to be a nature center. So here I am, this 26-year-old kid out of college working as a naturalist, living outside of Houston, commuting all over the place. The little town I'm in is starting a nature center from the ground up. So I'm like, hey, can I help,
Perfect.
please?
Like it's like you could create your own job almost.
Oh, literally, it was a miracle. So in talking to other nature centers, they all said start doing programming before your facility is built because you don't have to have a facility to do outdoor programming or go to other centers. And I thought, okay, I like birds of prey. My kestrel that I had for falconry was great as a falconry bird, too high strung to be an education bird. So I was looking for a non-releasable bird. I honestly wanted a red-tailed hawk or something. And there weren't any available. The only bird that I could find was a great horned owl named Alice. So in the fall of 1998, I got Alice the great horned owl, and that started the whole owl thing.
I see. And so who is Alice? So what's his story?
Um, if you hear noise in the background, that is Alice. She's
Oh, really?
29. Yeah, she's 29
29.
years. 29. Yep.
Oh, wow. That's like that.
Um,
Didn't know owls. I don't know that much about owls, I have to admit. So I'll be asking quite a few sort of silly questions. Like I didn't know how old they live too. So
Sure. So Alice fell out of her nest at 503 Hogan Street in Antigo, Wisconsin the spring of 1997. And she damaged the end of her humerus right at her elbow joint. And that is an injury that they knew she would be non-flighted. So she was super lucky. The Raptor Education Group is a phenomenal rehab facility and it was right outside of Antigo. So she went there. They did what they could, took care of the dislocation of the elbow, but the damage to the end of the humerus was going to make the bone grow odd. So she'd always have a droopy wing and never be able to fly. So she clearly couldn't live in the wild, but because she was young and was able to be socialized with humans, she was deemed to be a good candidate for an education bird. So when I got her, she was a year and a half old in the fall of 98.
oh wow, yeah. And she's still with you now all these years later.
Yep. Yeah. So I was used to little kestrels that are, high strung and they just move fast and do everything fast. And then here's this big, great horned owl that's a human imprint that wants attention. I'm like, this is so different.
Yeah. But,
But as a
is
human imprint, she would look to me basically as a companion and do all of her vocalizations to me and expect me to respond as a male great horned owl. And I didn't know what the heck I was doing, and she was getting mad. So back in 2004, I started doing a vocal study on great horned owls because nobody had ever studied their vocalizations. I mean, they're a
oh
common
really?
species across
Mhm.
all of North America, and that's probably why they're not studied. There's not much funding to study common species. There's funding to study rare species, but not common ones. So I started that back in 2004 with Alice kind of as the focal point for like the inner view of, interpretation of vocalizations. Because in owls, vocalizations are inherited, they're not learned. So everything is hardwired. So even though she's an imprint, she's still got all the normal vocalizations used in the correct contexts. And then started recording the wild owls in the area. But kind of realized if I wanted to get the whole entire vocal repertoire and all the behavioral context, the only way that was going to be possible was to get a captive breeding pair because you can have all the nest cams in the world and you'll get great data at the nest, but that's not where everything happens. And the rest of the year, you've got nothing. So I got permits and got a non-releasable breeding pair also from Antigo, Wisconsin in 2010, Rusty and Iris. We had a 96-foot long breeding and release training facility. So we had them breeding, live streamed them so that people watching could help with observations because there's no way I can observe everything. So that way people were, cool watching the cam and what's going on, but they're also helping with research and submitting observations. So some of our cam observers did amazing observations. And one went on now to become an eagle owl researcher, and she's the world authority on eagle owl vocalizations.
Oh wow, that's so cool. And how are your owl vocalizations? Do you care to demonstrate any or
Oh yeah, we do owl vocalizations at the Owl Center every day. It's actually on the job description for the educators. They have to be able to do them because
wow.
that's how most people experience owls is what by hearing them, not by
Mm,
seeing them. And people always hear them and you say, "What is it?" Well, I don't know. It was an owl. Well, you can tell all the different species apart based on their vocalizations. And everybody always thinks about the normal territorial calls, but they have wide repertoires. So great horned owls, even their hoots, they've got a bunch of different kinds of hoots. So a normal hoot for a male might be hoo, 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 and a female hoo, 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 hoo. So higher, more notes, squished together in a shorter time frame. But that's just a normal territorial hoot. If they're mad, then they could do an emphatic hoot. Hoo, 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 hoo.
ooh, wow.
So it's a variation on the hoot. Or our breeding male before when he was interested in copulating, all the viewers called them his Barry White hoots because his voice would get low and he'd sometimes leave notes off the end. So it might be oh, 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 oh. And he would
Wow.
do
Very
these
smooth,
soft
yeah.
ones, staring at his mate across the room. And when she was interested, then she'd do these little girl hoots. Woo, woo, woo. And then it switches to staccato hoots when they're excited. Woo, 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 woo. And then he comes over, lands on her back, and she's chittering. And it took me a long time and a whole lot of copulation sequences to watch to realize it was the male that does this high pitched squeal that happens during
Yeah.
copulation, acts out the high pitched vocalizations, but it's kind of this, which you probably can't hear. Despite
Oh no, I can't.
the male having eight talons in the female's back, you would think it's her, but it's actually the male that does the squeal. So
No.
those are some of the different hoots. And then they do a bunch of different kinds of chitters that can be everything from clucky in the nest, mom talking to the babies, or just conversational, or annoyed, or actually screaming if they're being physically restrained. And then there's different squawks. So the best known is the juvenile begging call, but adult females can do it if they're hungry also, like saying, "Hey, dad, bring in more food. We're not getting enough food at the nest." Um, they can do alarm calls, which can be like a whack, whack, like a double squawk, but that can be
Mm,
used in other contexts, and it can grade into a multi-squawk that's 3 or 4 notes that may or may not be an alarm call. I think the squawks get used in more than one context, so it's kind of hard to pin what they are. And then, unbeknownst to me, I thought after, oh, I don't know, 15 years, I knew it all. Yeah, right. Then I met some owl banders at a conference, and they said, "Hey, do you have a recording of the broken wing squeal?" I thought, great horned owls don't do broken wing displays. They're top predators. Why would they do a broken wing display? They don't do that. And they're like, "Oh, yeah, they do. Come banding with us. We'll show you." Not all of them, but there are a few that do. So sure enough, in an extremely specialized context where it's right at fledging age, when the adults perceive an extreme threat, which is usually a dog. So it doesn't always happen if there's a dog there. Sometimes it happens. It's most likely if there's a dog present when banders are banding. So this is like the highest level threat that an owl could perceive. Then one or both adults may either in the tree or on the ground spread their wings out and make this really high-pitched squeal. So I finally went banding with them several years and was able to get a few good recordings of the broken wing squeal, which is similar to the copulation squeal.
I suppose yeah, they're not too far apart when you think about it, I guess. But
Yeah.
oh wow, I suppose yeah, that's the good thing about conferences, though, isn't it? Like you'll meet someone, and then of course you'll just to like it's common knowledge for them, but it's completely new for you. It's a
Yes,
yeah.
conferences are awesome.
Mm. Oh wow. Well, thank you for the sort of demonstration and the schooling on vocalizations. Is what's Alice's favorite vocalization? I hope it's not she's not too mad with you too much, is she?
Well, she's gotten owlier the older she's gotten.
Mm.
So when she retired at age 21, because she was just getting too crabby to go to work, and she had started out working at the Houston Nature Center where it was just her and me. She had a perch in the office looking out over the wetland, and she had this beautiful view. And then when long story, separate story, when we created the International Owl Center in 2015 as kind of an outgrowth of our Festival of Owls that we started in 2003, then we're in a rented brick building and there's other owls there. She's not the only one getting attention. She doesn't have this beautiful view anymore. And she just, yeah, owls don't do change well. She didn't like it that much. So we retired her at age 21. And then she started spending more time with my husband, who's also retired. And so then I was no longer number one. He was number one. So I sometimes get attacked if I go in her room and she doesn't want me in there.
Oh wow, the other woman almost.
Kinda. But then she also gets jealous too if I'm talking to somebody either in person or via Zoom or on the phone. She knows I'm talking to somebody else, so then she'll get mad and hoot too.
Oh wow, yeah. She definitely likes to assert herself, doesn't she? By the sounds of it, yeah.
Yeah. This is
What?
an owl that has no lack of self-esteem and self-confidence. She
Hmm.
is the queen and she knows it.
And
She's
she
not
knows, yeah.
princess. She's the queen in charge of everyone and everything.
Oh, amazing. So yeah, we will get to talk about the International Owl Center and kind of how that all came together. I just thought maybe, because I know we've talked about the great horned owl, but I know there's quite a few species. But like, what are the kind of what defines an owl? Like, what are the kind of common traits they all share?
You would think that's an easy question to answer, and it is not.
Oh,
It is
okay.
not an easy question at all. And even defining what a raptor is very difficult. So owls are all in the order Strigiformes. Um, and some key parts, they don't have a crop. So hawks and the diurnal raptors have a crop. Owls don't have a crop.
Hmm.
Owls have ceca, so there's dead end sacs at the end of their intestines where basically the wastes back up in there and ferment and make bioavailable some amino acids that aren't available otherwise. So other things, gallinaceous birds have that too, but hawks and eagles don't have those. Of course, they have the hooked beak, um, strictly carnivorous diet. Um, their feet, they've got four toes like most birds. When they're doing anything with their toes, they normally have two forward, two backward, and then that outer toe can reverse forward. So if they're not doing something with their feet, like they've got it tucked up sleeping or they're flying, then they'll have three toes forward, one toe back. They're not the only ones that can do that though, because osprey can do that also.
Mm.
So you've got all these, and they tend to have wider skulls. It totally depends on the species, because we always think of owls as being hearing oriented, but not all owls are. So some have much wider, more bulbous skulls, and like all birds, they have sclerotic rings. So it's a bony ring within the eye. And in some owls, it's really, really big and pronounced and makes their eyes very tubular. Um, hawks will usually have a separate bone that's their brow ridge. Owls just kind of have like a little pointy projection for a brow ridge. Um, yeah, there's no one great answer as to
Yeah, I
what
guess there's
makes
so many
something
little
up.
nuances to it. Because I things that yeah, like you were just saying there, the sort of the big eyes, the kind of nocturnal characteristics. That's kind of what comes to mind if I think of an owl. And I guess they're generally characterized as quite wily and wise. Are they more or less intelligent than people imagine? Or
They're probably less intelligent than people
oh
imagine.
no.
Owls are very good at being owls. They're
Mm.
good at all the stuff they need to do. They're pretty hardwired, but if you need to teach them something new or get them to do something new, oh, it's going to be a slow process.
It's almost like they're like, well, we're perfect as we are. Why change? It's
Right.
Oh, nice. And so, how many species are there actually, worldwide? I suppose is the question. I don't know. Or we could stick to North America. I don't know what the.
North
parameters would
America is
be?
easier. We
Hmm,
can
okay.
we can say 19 species in North America.
19. All right. Okay.
It's complicated when you ask how many there are in the world. So we had a presenter, Heimo Mikkola from Finland, give a presentation, a 1 hour presentation on the question, how many owl species are there in the world? Because nobody agrees. There are no two people that agree, and it's always evolving and changing with genetics, and then they're splitting this and vocalizations and this, that, and then
Hmm.
the next thing. So the lowest estimate is 220, highest estimate is more like 270. So
Oh,
it
wow.
depends also, are you splitter or are you a lumper? And species are not these nice, clean concepts that everybody agrees on. There's several different definitions of what's a species, and it's not a stagnant thing. Things are always moving and changing and
Mm.
evolving. So no great answer there. If
No,
you
that's
could say somewhere in the ballpark of 250, then yeah,
I'll take
somewhere.
that. I'll take it. Don't worry. Well, it is interesting. Like, it's like when people are wrangling over like different subspecies or whatever, and then I think nowadays there's you wouldn't think it, but I think there's about four species of giraffe. Yeah, like you say, I think as genetics is a big plays a big part in that, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, and the fun thing with owls is because they're hardwired, their vocalizations, and they're not learning them. Their vocal differences are very often a good indicator of how genetically different they are.
Hmm. Okay. No, that makes sense. Well, not every owl's the same, but do they contribute to their like ecosystem in a similar way, like as I suppose carnivores?
Yeah, so owls are basically all carnivores, but different things based on different sizes. So if you're a little teeny weeny elf owl or a flammulated owl, you're mostly eating insects. So you're a predator, but you're not a top predator. But if you're
Hmm.
something big like an eagle owl or a great horned owl, you're eating very large prey, or you can eat. And the largest owl in the world, the Blakiston's fish owl, they tend to focus more on fish and not even gigantic fish, and frogs, but they can eat some other stuff too. So they're functioning as predators. So if owls are doing well, generally the rest of the ecosystem tends to be. If you're screwing things up in the food chain, then that can have a negative impact on owls also. And then one thing that most people don't realize is big owls eat little owls. So the smaller owls are part of the owl food chain also. So if you're a great horned owl, you eat everything smaller than you, including
Oh
long-eared
wow.
owls, barred owls, screech owls, saw-whet owls, whatever's there.
I did not know that. So no wonder you got to keep Alice separate, I suppose.
Yeah, all the birds are housed separately. And at the Owl Center, we have mesh in front of them because in our current space, it's just one big space. So, yeah, we can't just have them tethered on perches because at some point, somebody's going to get loose. Things happen, accidents happen.
There'll
And
be
we
some
don't
broken
need
wing squealing, probably.
yeah,
Oh no.
we don't need anybody eating anybody
Course
else.
not. Course not. Wow. It's kind of like I don't know. I just learned this a couple of years back when I didn't even know you've got like it's the leopard slug and it preys on other slugs and I was just like and I didn't even know that. I was just like,
Wow.
yeah.
New
There's
for me
always
too. Hmm.
well, I suppose you said like if owls are an indicator of like what's if you've got a healthy ecosystem, like what are the kind of threats that owls are facing currently?
Um, Usually people are the biggest problem. And usually it's inadvertent. People in North America, anyway, typically aren't consciously trying to harm owls. So it's things like they get hit by cars, obviously. Small owls will fly into chimneys. They will fly into the vents of vault toilets. So there's a really cool poo-poo project that the Teton Raptor Center does to get grates on top of, all of the national parks and state parks and whatever, get
Hmm.
vents over there so the owls don't meet a horrible death inside a toilet, which does happen. Insecticides, herbicides, pesticides, it's getting into the food chain, it's getting into things they eat. A huge one that people don't realize is rodenticides. So when you're poisoning mice and rats, those mice and rats don't die for several days. And then they
Mm.
usually are seeking out water because most of them are anticoagulants, making them bleed internally, making them thirsty. So they're looking for water. If they got in your building, they can probably get out of your building. And then they're really easy prey for owls. So there's a lot of studies on rodenticides. And of the ones that I've read, I think the lowest percentage I heard of owls tested was like 40% had measurable levels of rodenticides in their body. Most of them are more like 60 to 80%. I've seen one where 100% of the owls tested had rodenticides, and usually it's more than one. It's not just one. So you're poisoning your natural rodent control when you're poisoning mice and rats. So we have a whole display at the Owl Center about here's all the different things you can do that aren't poison for controlling rodents.
Mm. Well,
Um, they
what?
get hung up in soccer nets. They get stuck in barbed wire fences. Yeah, there's all kinds of things that. Oh, and then people cutting down dead trees or dying trees. Oh, there were baby owls in there.
Yeah.
And, they've either been killed or injured or orphaned or whatever as part of that. So it's usually ignorance on the basis of humans. We're not intentionally doing it, usually here in Western Europe and North America. Um, but we try to teach people to be aware of
Mm.
how our actions are impacting them. Now, if you're a spotted owl, which is the rarest owl in North America, their biggest problem right now is the barred owl. So barred owls were native to the eastern part of the United States and have gradually spread westward, and are dropping down through Oregon, Washington into California. And they're like the big bad cousin of the spotted owl, and they just totally outcompete them. Spotted owls are, just kind of these sweethearts that are very, very specialized and have a super specific diet. So if you're in California and you're a spotted owl, you pretty much eat flying squirrels and wood rats and virtually nothing else. And if you're a little farther north, throw in some tree voles, but super specialized, so they have to have a huge territory. Well, barred owls, they eat anything. And
Mm.
when they move out there, they even eat more of anything because they're naive. They don't know what prey they shouldn't be eating out there. So they just eat everything, and you can fit 4 or 5 barred owl territories in one spotted owl territory. So they just wildly outcompete them, take the nest cavities, run the other ones off. So spotted owls are going down the toilet really fast due to barred owls.
Oh wow. And what is it we can do to help the great spotted owls?
It's not nice. The only thing that has been proven to help spotted owls is shooting barred owls.
Mm.
So as you can imagine, that is not a popular thing.
No, I guess not. It's a bit like here in the UK, we have like grey squirrels and red squirrels, which is very similar situation where
Mhm.
grey squirrels are an invasive species and they are out competing and outmatching. I think it's because they carry a disease that they're fine if they have it, but it affects the red squirrels and it's killing them all off. So yeah, taking the grey squirrels out of the population is the only way to save the red squirrels, and you get a lot of arguments back and forth about the right way of doing it, and then yeah.
Mhm.
Mm.
But it's probably even more acceptable for people to shoot a squirrel than it is to shoot an owl. In our brains, if we're talking invasive species and okay, let's get rid of the Asian carp. Okay, people aren't like, oh my gosh, you can't kill carp. Or some invasive insect. Nobody's going to care if you kill an invasive insect. But then when you
Mm.
start getting into the more cuddly things, a squirrel is more cuddly than a fish, right? So
Mm.
fewer people are going to. And then when you get into an owl, that is like kind of crossing a border for most people. Like you can't kill an owl to save another owl, but
Mm.
literally, if we want to save spotted owls, that may be the only option. But it probably has to be done very long term. So is that something we're prepared to keep doing for decades and decades and decades? Spotted owls are really slow reproducers. They only have young every 2 or 3 years.
Mm. That's so.
So yeah, it's not like most owls that kick out a bunch of babies every year.
Hmm. Do they hang on to the babies for the 2, 3 years before they leave, or?
Good question. I don't think so. Blackstone's fish owls will have young with them more than 1 year, but I don't know that spotted owls do.
Hmm. No, it's interesting. Well, like you say, they're all different. Like,
Yes.
um,
That's the thing about owls. They are all different. Everything
hmm.
you've learned about owls probably does not apply to all owls. There's exceptions to everything.
Yeah. It's probably what do I know about owls? Probably learned it from like Winnie the Pooh or something when I was younger. But all right then. So why don't we talk about the International Owl Centre? Try and focus on something positive. It's quite a new. It's actually quite relatively new, the actual centre itself. But you've been running programs for quite a while before that, and you mentioned you had a festival of owls as well. So I was like, I guess this all ties together. So like, what's the timeline here?
Right. So the big question is why on earth is there an International Owl Center in Houston, Minnesota? And, if you were going to start one, you wouldn't say, oh, let's put it in Houston. It just evolved here. We never intended to do one. So when I got Alice in 1998 and started doing programs, that was on behalf of the Houston Nature Center. The Nature Center was built in 2001, but I was very aware that it was there for tourism purposes. So I was trying to bring environmental education and tourism together and came up with the idea of, hey, let's do a hatch day party for Alice. She hatched in late winter. There's nothing going on then. Everybody likes Alice. Let's bring in some live owls. We'll do some fun family stuff. And 300 people came the first year, which in our little town, that's a lot of people.
Hmm.
So we kept doing it. And within a few years, we had people flying here from Alabama, California, New York. Oh, why are you flying to Houston, Minnesota in the beginning of March when the weather is whatever, generally not nice for our owl festival? And that's when we realized there's a lot of people that like owls, and there was nothing else like it anywhere in North America. So then we thought, well, hey, let's really add on. And we added a World Owl Hall of Fame because we were having keynote speakers come in, and I realized, these people have dedicated their lives to owls. Wouldn't it be cool if we could give them some public recognition for what they're doing? So we solicit the nominations. We have experts from around the world do the judging. So they're judged by their peers, not by us. And then we get to present the awards. So all the top owl people on Earth come to little bitty Houston,
Wow.
Minnesota to our owl festival and speak. So yeah,
Yeah, that's
amazing.
great. It's like
And then
owl Oscars almost.
and then the one other thing that got just crazy was we started with the very first festival, we had a local coloring contest. And as the internet grew, so did the contest. And then we started getting from around the world, and we were getting like 400 to 700 entries from a dozen countries, which was really nice. And then one year, somebody posted it on Russia's biggest social media network, and we went from 700 entries to 4,000 entries. We were completely unprepared to deal with that, but
Hmm.
we average 2 to 4,000 entries from 30 to 50 countries every year, and it's amazing what these kids do. So at the Owl Center, we have like 100 or more of them on display throughout the year, and we've got them on the street banners in town and whatever. So anyway, that's one of the other things that blew up out of the Owl Festival. So as the festival grew, and we kept adding more things and some really successful things, we started getting more and more people. And when we started having more than 1,000 people come to the festival, that's when I thought, hey, there's a wolf center, a bear center, a crane center, an eagle center. There's no all owl education center anywhere in the United States. So let's do that. So in 2000, the idea started in the late 2000s, and then I visited other facilities and got some other training and put together a board of directors, and we had to do fundraising. So we opened in a storefront in 2015.
No, great. And I mean, yeah, 11 years later, uh, growing bigger and bigger, I bet.
Yes. Yep. So we're in the process of doing a capital campaign to have the facility that we should have, because being in a brick building is not where you would expect an owl center to be. It's not ideal. The owls live off-site out in the country and they commute to work every day. So when we have the new center built, then they will live on site. We can have way more owls.
Hmm.
Adequate toilet facilities. That's one of the things staff is looking forward to because we have one toilet at our current facility, which on busy days is woefully inadequate.
Mm.
Or, having a class of kindergartners come or whatever.
No, great. And when you say like a working day for an owl, what is that? What's a typical work day for an owl? So you bring it you bring it from the offsite facility in, and it's kind of, I guess, educating people.
Yep. So we have the Owl Mobile, which is a van that's got owls on it. And I load them into transport boxes, drive them into work, and then each one has their own small space at work where they sit in front of our program area. And they just kind of hang out there. Everybody can come see them. And then at the end of each program, so during the summer, we do 3 programs a day. The rest of the year, we do 2 programs a day. And at the end of each program, we'll pick one of the owls to pick up and carry around and show the audience.
Oh,
And
nice.
then they go home at the end of the day back to their aviaries where they have space to fly around and
Hmm.
then they get fed at night.
Oh, great. And I guess are these majority of these will be rescue owls, I'm guessing, or
It's a mixture. So because owls don't do change well, to be a good ambassador owl, they have to have been raised with this. Because if they're injured as an adult and they come into it, very, very stressful for them and they don't adjust well. So we have Alice obviously was a rescue, and then Rusty and Iris, our breeding pair, were rescues. We have a barred owl that's a rescue. He was about 3 weeks old when he came into captivity. And then the other 4 that are currently going to work were all hatched in captivity for different reasons. The great horned owl was hatched as part of our vocal study on the species,
hmm.
and then the other ones at other facilities.
Yeah, oh, really interesting, very diverse then. So who are some of the standout characters for you? Oh, and what are their kind of personalities?
Well, Bee the burrowing owl, yes, she's the little princess, and she does not always go to work. Thank you very much. So I can sometimes get her to go to work. If I can't, then I have to call one of our other coworkers if she's working and say, well, hey, Joe, would you come and try and pick up Bee because Joe is Bee's favorite person. So Bee is finicky about coming to work. So sometimes I can get her, sometimes I can't. And if I can't, then I have to call Joe if Joe is working and say, hey, Joe, would you stop in and see if you could pick up Bee and get Bee to go to work? And sometimes that's a no for Joe also. So Bee varies. Sometimes she's at work in some seasons every day and sometimes randomly. Like yesterday, she wasn't going to work. Thank you very much. But I think she went to work 2 days this weekend out of the 4 that she should have been there. So but she's just so cute. I mean, burrowing owls are adorable and they stand there on one leg and everybody wonders if she's sleeping. And because burrowing owls are from open habitats and they're prey for anything because they're on the ground. So ground predators, aerial predators, everything eats them. So they're alert all the time. So her strategy is you sit out front and you're always watching and paying attention. Whereas the other owls are like, we're going to blend in so people don't see us. So sometimes they're harder to see. But Bee, she's right out front, right where the visitors are. So they can see her really, really good. And, just their movements are so cute. And it totally overshadows the whole endangered species thing. They're Minnesota's only endangered owl, and they're declining pretty much everywhere else because of their habitat is kind of this open, barren environment where people like to build houses and shopping centers and things like that. And, they get eaten by things, they get hit by cars, they're migratory in the northern parts of their range. So a lot of things stacked against them, but she's just ridiculously cute. So she's super popular. And then Pierce the barred owl, he's very popular also because he's very talkative. So he's our rescue one that was found when he was 3 weeks old. And he likes a lot of attention. So he basically thinks of me as his mate. They alloprene. So in the mornings at work, he will hang on his mesh because he wants to sit with me at my desk. So I have to sit with him at my desk, try and type with one hand while I have 2 monitors. So then one will
Hmm.
have videos playing, well, YouTube videos for cats, basically, little things running around on the screen. So he's busy watching that while I'm trying to do work and type with one hand on the other one. But in this late winter to spring, he's really talkative. So I can just hoot to him and he hoots back and gets all worked up. So And he has toys that he likes to play with also. So he's got his plush mice. Come into work and I hide him in a couple places, and first thing he does is go gets his mice and sticks them in his transport box. And so he's kind of a character also. So
Yeah, it sounds like you've got a really special relationship with him.
yes.
Mm. I wish I could decide not to go to work any on any given
Yeah.
day. Yeah,
Wouldn't it be nice?
yeah, wouldn't it? But oh, and so yeah, what sort of other programs do you run there? Then you've taught like obviously I know there'll be a lot of education, and you've said there's some captive breeding. Like what does that entail actually? The captive breeding.
Well, we did the captive breeding just for the vocal study.
Mm,
So that
okay.
is over and done with now because Rusty aged out and we eventually had to put him down when he went 100% blind. So Iris is just retired, but she still streams to our YouTube channel, so you can watch her there.
Oh, I'll look her
And
up.
if you watch her, then you can hear our other owls at night also. Yeah, so that was to study their vocalizations, and
Hmm.
they raised three batches of kids. One we were able to release. One, the other two batches we were not allowed to release because they're very, 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 very heavily regulated in the U.S. So a breeding permit is one thing, a release permit is another thing.
I see.
So yeah, so a lot of times people are like, well, you should have released them. Well, yeah, wouldn't that have been nice? That was not an option. We were not
Yeah,
allowed.
easy said.
Um, yeah, and I will just say that that game changed after we started playing the game. So we were told we would be allowed to release, and then partway through they said, "Yeah, we're not going to let you do that anymore."
No.
So it was a very difficult situation for us to deal with. So the second brood we hand reared so that we could look at the vocal development of human reared owls versus parent reared owls to look at, is it on the same schedule? Are they doing the same vocalizations? That kind of stuff. With the intention that they would be reared as education birds to replace Alice, because I knew she was getting older and would need some time off. And then we did one more batch of young wild reared by the parents, which was good because there was um, it's all context specific. So if you don't have a context, you're not going to get those vocalizations. And we had a different context with the wild owls. The last year, we didn't have wild owls that were in near the aviaries. And so the owls didn't do as many vocalizations or just kind of skipped it until later. So anyway, you've got to do multiple to get a better idea of what's going on.
Mm.
So it wasn't the ideal setup because we weren't allowed to carry out the research protocol as laid out initially when we got the permits. So
That's
anyway, that's over. We're probably not ever going to breed anything again in captivity because we're not allowed to release.
mm.
Um, and what was the other part of the question?
Oh, I suppose like what other research are you working on then at the minute?
Oh, so that then inadvertently spiraled into research detecting wild barn owls in Minnesota. So this was vocal research on great horned owls. The microphones were sensitive enough. They were catching most of the sound within half a mile. Well, barn owls are not supposed to be in Minnesota. They're extraliminal because it's too cold here. They shouldn't be here. They're not built for cold weather. Well, in 2014, I recorded one as part of our vocal study. It took 2 years before I could get the Minnesota Ornithologists Union to accept that, yes, this is a valid record of a barn owl because that's how rare they were. And then in 2017, I got several more barn owl recordings, 2018, 2019. And at that point, I thought, okay, barn owls are not saying, oh, look, here's owl center facilities. Let's go there. They're probably in other places. So then I got some grants to get automated recording units. Well, I have a little one here. So this is a Song Meter Micro, but I was using a larger one.
Hmm.
And it's basically like a trail cam that records audio. So you program it when it's going to record, what frequencies, what kind of schedule, and you just put it out with its batteries and you let it sit there for a few months, and then you pull the SD card and then you process the recordings. And the first year was kind of experimental to figure out what kind of protocol. I got a little bit of data, but not much. And then when I switched to just putting recorders in one location for an entire year, then all of a sudden I started picking up barn owls all over the place. So I think I've submitted most of the barn owl documentations for, well, most of the official documentation for barn owls in the state of Minnesota. And I'm almost single-handedly responsible for reclassifying them. So the Minnesota Ornithologists Union has 3 different levels. Accidental is, I think, once every 10 years or something like that. And then casual is, I don't remember, more frequent than that. And then regular is you have to have every year for 10 years. And I think this is the 10th year, but they only change the classifications on a, I don't know, so many numbers of years. Anyway, they'll be reclassified based almost entirely on the recordings that I've done. So that's kind of exciting. So they're just really secretive around here. They're so strictly nocturnal. They don't say much, and they're very good at being in locations away from people. So the automated recording units just turned out to be the best way to do it, to detect them.
So it's kind of funny. So, but like it's they are there. It's just because you can't see them doesn't mean they're not. Yeah, right. I swear. I mean, I don't know. I know we've at the sanctuary seen owls, and I don't know if I'd have to check with Steph. If she might have said barn, she might have said barred owl. I sometimes forget.
You have to enunciate very well. Yeah. Barred owl would be likely. Barn owl, very, very, very rare there. But with owls, you never say never, because there was a barn owl that showed up in Saxon Bog in January one year. Dumb idea, it died, but they do bizarre things. They've bred in Canada before, so you just you never say never.
Yeah, anything is possible. Yeah. Also, that's really exciting. So that's quite a long-term study, and it's getting it's validation for your work you're doing. That's really nice.
Yep.
And so. The center as well. So the owl center, like, is it open year round?
The owl center, because it's indoors, it's open year round. We're open 5 days a week during the summer, 4 days a week, fall, winter, and spring. And then part of the reason we're not open 7 days a week is because we only have one program space. So if we're going to have school groups and other groups come in, we have to be closed to the public.
Right.
So yeah, so right now we're finishing up school season, and then heading into library season during the summer. But we always make sure there's 1 day a week that the birds don't have to work at all. And Ruby, the great horned owl, winds up doing a lot of the offsite programs. So if she's been doing a lot of offsite programs, then on a day we're open, we may let her stay home, because she lets us know if she's working too much. We go to pick her up and she'll step up on the glove and then she squeezes really hard.
Yeah, and that's her way of telling you, not today.
Right.
And
don't want to do this.
No, I suppose I should ask this earlier as well. I know when you said southeast Minnesota, like, just for like context, like, how far is that, say, from like the Twin Cities?
We're 2.5 hours southeast of the Twin Cities, half an hour west of La Crosse, and half an hour south of Winona.
Okay, it's good to know next time I visit. And I guess when you get the center, obviously you've got school kids, you've got the general public. Like, what are the common questions people ask, and are there particular myths and misconceptions you find yourself commonly addressing?
Well, one of the big ones that's a common question and a myth and misconception is, how far can an owl turn its head? So we always ask people, how far do you think they can? Can they go 360? And some people will say, well, yeah, they can. And some people are like, no, they can't turn their head all the way around. Well, I always say, how far can you turn your head? Because you can't answer that question without having a reference point. If you're starting from the front, most humans can go around 90 degrees. But if you're talking full extension, most humans can do close to 180. So the same thing with owls, you cannot have that discussion without having a reference point. Are you talking full extension, or are you talking starting from the front? So if you're talking full extension, all owls can turn their heads 360 degrees. They all can start over the spine one way, go all the way around over the spine the other way. So yes, all owls can turn their heads 360 degrees. But The number you always hear thrown around is 270. Owls can turn their heads 270 degrees. Well, what does that mean? Most people think that's full extension. What that actually meant to describe is from the front to the side, over the spine, and then over the other shoulder. So 3/4 of the way around from the front. Now, that being said, I've never seen an owl do that. And I talked to a whole bunch of other researchers. I'm like, have you ever seen an owl turn its head 270? No, none of them have ever seen an owl turn its head 270. I talked to a couple of educators that had captive birds that would hyperfixate on something and they could walk around them. And I think one was a barn owl and one was a long-eared owl that would do 270 from the front. And I thought, you know what? We have all these dead specimens and we do dissection classes where we have people come in and we'll dissect like 6 different species of owls at the same time and compare and contrast. And you can right real up close see all the differences between serrations and ears and eyes and all that kind of stuff, toes, feathers. So I thought, let's turn the heads on these dead ones. Okay, those are going to go farther than live ones, right? So a great horned owl physically cannot turn its head more than over its spine. It absolutely cannot go farther than that, even if you crank on it. Long-eared owl, woo, it can almost do The Exorcist. I'm trying to think. So each one has a different range of motion than other ones. So basically, throw the numbers out of the window. All owls can do 360 if you're talking full extension to full extension, and some species can do more, is a better answer than 270. But it's a very long answer. So that's a very common question and very common misconception because people are like, they can turn their heads 270. Throw that out the window.
Just memorize the fact of it. It's not been applied,
Right.
I suppose. Yeah. Oh, well, that's good to
Right.
know. I probably would have been. I might have just said, oh, they can turn it 360, and yeah, I wouldn't even have thought about it. So
Yeah, well, they can. You're right. They can turn their heads 360
yeah,
if you're talking full extension.
yeah.
It's absolutely meaningless without a frame of reference.
Mm. Oh, that's fun.
People always ask how long they can live. So owls in general are kind of the opposite of dogs, where the larger owls live longer and the smaller owls live shorter, typically, not always. So a great horned owl in captivity, healthy, if things go well, can be late 20s, early 30s. You get some extremes that are more than that, but that's like people living, you know, to be 100 or older than that. Smaller owls typically not that long. Like I don't think an elf owl would ever live to 10 years, even in captivity, probably. But I've heard of a pygmy owl making it into late teens. So that's a small one living a long time.
Mm.
So it varies. What are some of the other common questions? How much do they weigh? They always weigh a lot less than people think. They're not mammals. They're poofy. They have to be able to fly. Most of their bones are hollow, not all, but a lot are. So something like a great horned owl here in Minnesota, you're talking 3, maybe to 4 pounds, something like that. So they're not that heavy. The heaviest owl in the world would be Blackiston's fish owls in the Russian Far East and Japan. So an adult female breeding season can be around 10 pounds. So kind of close to female bald eagle. Not a huge bald eagle, but decent bald eagle size. And then those little bitty ones, an elf owl, if they were flat, you could mail them for 2 stamps because they're
Oh, really?
just weigh nothing. They're so tiny. Yeah, so wide range of weights, but much less than people think. And some of the little ones, like pygmy owls, although they look only a little bit bigger than like a flammulated owl or an elf owl, they're just like little bodybuilders. They're just solid. They're not poofy, and they will kill birds that are 2 or 3 times bigger than they are. So they're just these aggressive little muscular or whatever. And then you have flammulated owls. They're just these little poofy things that eat moths and have these little delicate toes on them. So although they might physically look similar, one is much lighter than the other one.
Mm. Oh, wow. It's really interesting. It's like, yeah, I guess, yeah, different temperaments, different species again, and like little sort of Napoleon complex in one, and then just like little sort of mousiness in the
Yes.
other. Yeah.
Yeah, the pygmy owls, I've been told if you're going to house them together, you have to put them in a huge enclosure or a two-part enclosure because although they may only be that big, little teeny weeny things, the
Hmm.
female will kill the male and rip his head off if they don't have a giant enclosure. They're
Oh.
just like ferocious little things. If great horned owls had that attitude, humans should fear for their lives, I think.
Mm. Well, it's like you make me think they had the big program to reintroduce red kites to the UK over the last few years, and it's been really successful. But yeah, you hear quite a few stories about these red kites coming along and trying to make off with people's picnic food.
Ah, too much human interaction, it sounds
Mm,
like there.
possibly. But again, like they do look beautiful in flight though, so all
Mhm.
is forgiven. I'm sure that I mean all owl species are great, but are there any particular species that are your favorite, like either to work with or in general?
Well, I mean, great horned owls are my favorite because
Mm,
of Alice and all the research and spending time with researchers. And yeah, so that's my favorite one because I know it the best.
hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
But
And
Blackesten's fish owls are totally awesome. So I
mm,
got to go to Japan and see some this last fall, and they're just huge. And they're
mm.
like these, I don't know, like big shaggy owl kind of crossed with teddy bear kind of look.
Oh
Just
wow.
amazing. And they have these low voices and they do a perfect duet. And they're different than most other owls. Most other owls, the female, although she's bigger, has the higher voice and the male has the lower voice. Reversed, fish owls, the female is still bigger, but she's got the lower voice.
Mm.
And they do a perfect duet. Most owls in the world, okay, they both sing, but it's not like a scripted duet. Blackesten's fish owls, when they sing, it sounds like one bird. Boo 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 or boo 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 boo. It just sounds like one bird. But the
Oh.
first boo boo is the male and then the
Hmm.
boo is the female. But perfect timing.
Yeah, perfectly in sync with each other. Oh,
Mhm.
that's cool. That's not nice. Where in Japan is it? Are they found throughout Japan, or is it like North Island, South Island, or?
No, they used to be throughout all of Hokkaido, way in the north, and now they're
Hmm.
just there's a few remote places in the north. So there's probably, I don't know if it's less than 100 birds or less than 100 pairs in Japan.
Well,
So Russia has more, but then there's a question of are they even the same species anymore, or have they diverged enough that they're different species? Because the vocalizations are slightly different. In
mm,
Russia, they only breed every 2 years versus every year. In Japan, the Russian ones, I think, have a white spot on the back of their head. So, yeah.
mm.
And yeah, good luck. You're not going to Russia to work with them currently.
Probably not, but I'm actually, well, I am going to Japan next year.
Oh, and you might be interested in there's a the total aside, there's a
Hmm.
national Ainu museum outside of Sapporo in another smaller town. So the Ainu are the native Japanese,
Okay.
and for them, they're the only culture that I know of that has really viewed owls as gods. So the blackest, because they have the Blackesten's fish owl, and they depended on fish, and the fish owl depended on fish, and but bears are also really huge in their culture.
Mm.
And so that museum was just amazing to learn more about what they do. And we happened to be there on a day where it was a holiday, and they had Ainu artists who had all kinds of things that they were selling, carvings and plates and all kinds of stuff. And they would have a lot of bear stuff there too.
Oh, I'll look that up. I'll make a note. I knew. Is actually, yeah, so when you say about like worshipping owls as gods, is there a lot of folklore about owls in general around like in
Yes.
North America? And yeah, you could get
Yeah,
big,
around the world throughout
yeah.
history, people were not ambivalent about owls.
Hmm.
People loved them or feared them. Typically, there's not a lot of people like, it's an owl. I mean, owls are just special because you don't see
Mm.
them. They're always kind of mysterious. And um, so, that's probably one of the most positive views of owls anywhere is the Ainu.
Hmm.
Um, and then the Greeks, they're symbols of wisdom, right? Because they were with the goddess Athena. She always had her little owl. So, and that's probably where it's carried down to this day, where people think of owls as wise,
Yeah.
probably filtered down from Athena. Um, But then there's a whole lot of, even on different continents, some kind of association with death. And it can be like in much of Africa, people are afraid of owls because if they land on your house and call, somebody in your house is going to die. So in some places, they may actually proactively kill them because they don't want them to land on the house. But in other places, like some of the native cultures in North America, um, may be very fearful of them, like, oh my gosh, don't give, is it Navajo? Somebody was telling me that his fiance was Navajo and he wanted to get something for his mother-in-law, and he was at a little shop and they had some items with owls. And he was saying, oh, this is for my mother-in-law. And they said, do not get her something with an owl on it because that's basically kind of saying, hey, I want you to die kind of
Oh wow,
thing.
yeah, it's not
So,
quite no, that's not definitely not the message you want to be sending.
no, no. But then in some, it's more just objective, like, okay, an owl is a messenger of death, but it's just a messenger. It's not the owl's fault. He's just delivering a message. So then there's no hard feelings towards the owl, but there's still an association with death. Um, in I think it's in the Columbia River Valley, some of the natives there believe that the spirit of the owl is so powerful that normal people shouldn't look at one because our spirits aren't strong enough to handle dealing with the spirit of an owl. So that's kind of the domain of shamans.
Hmm.
Um, China and Mongolia, there's some traditions of using flank feathers from Eurasian eagle owls, so from the side of their legs, and putting them on headdresses and things like that. So they were sort of protectorates to help keep you safe, bring wealth, things like that. Well, and then the Hindu goddess Lakshmi, her vehicle is an owl. So in some Hindu sects, they used to, and a few still do, it's not legal, will sacrifice an owl on Diwali because if you kill the owl, then the goddess Lakshmi can't leave your home and that brings you wealth in the coming year. So,
Hmm.
not
Ooh.
good. So there's all kinds of stuff all over the world in different ways. And, some of these ancient bronze wine vessels from China, we don't know what it meant to them, but there's several that were done in owls. So obviously these are very expensive things. So obviously it was an important symbol for them.
Hmm. Oh wow, like they're really, yeah, like when you like I hear you just talking about it like everywhere. They've really permeated almost every culture on some level.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
in Australia, the Aboriginal people, there's uh, is it Gordel? God, Gordel. Oh, haven't done that one. Anyway, there's for them, the creator beings created the landscape and then became part of the landscape. And there's this huge stone rock that has kind of this cap sitting on it at an angle that looks like an owl.
Hmm.
And to them, if they come near that, they can feel the spirit of their ancestors there. And it's near a mining site where Gogomat, that's what it's called. That one is Gogomat.
All right. Oh wow.
So there's all these different things all over throughout history around the world.
Yeah, and like why do you think that is then? Why do you think like owls are so important to people?
Well, and that's the question that people still ask. Why owls? And it's very hard to put your finger on it. But um, the Global Owl Project has done a whole lot of surveys, cultural surveys around the world about what people currently think about owls and what the historical beliefs were and how strongly they're held. And one of the people that did a survey gave an answer that I think is just perfect. They said owls enchant the night.
Hmm.
And, isn't that what they do? Because they're mysterious to us. It's not like, oh yeah, I'm just going to go see an owl. You hear them, you don't see them. It's just this mysterious thing that is special in some way. And the pat answer is owls have large heads and forward-facing eyes like us, so they look like us. I don't know if that's it, or
No,
if it's just
I prefer the more romantic side.
yeah, I do too.
Well, I
Yeah.
was good. So obviously, I don't particularly want to be shooting owls if they land on my house. So like, how can one live an owl-friendly life?
Oh, on our website, we actually have a whole section on how to live an owl-friendly life.
Oh, right.
So things like using traps instead of poison to control rodents,
Hmm.
that's a huge one. Leaving dead and dying trees standing when it's safe to do so. And if you have to take them down, which there certainly are some that have to come down, if you can wait till fall, that's the best time to do it because then nobody should be nesting in there.
Hmm. I swear,
Um,
I swear there was like a big story a couple of years back when, it was a big Christmas tree and I think they put it up somewhere in New York, right? And there was like a little baby owl in it. It went quite viral, didn't it?
Yeah, Rocky the saw-whet owl. So he wasn't a
Mm.
baby, it was an adult.
Oh, okay, right, sorry.
Yeah. They roost in coniferous trees and it just got folded in there.
Mm. Oh, poor thing. But
Um,
his story ended all right. He got to go back to the wild, didn't he? Yes, that's okay.
yeah. Yeah. And then the other big media one recently is Flacco, the Eurasian eagle owl, that got loose from the Central Park Zoo after vandals cut his enclosure open a few years ago. And they couldn't catch him, so he lived free in Central Park. And he was the symbol of freedom to so many people. He inspired people like probably no owl ever. I mean, you can't see an eagle owl and go, yeah, that's just an eagle owl. It's like, wow, that is so cool. So people, just flocked to go see him. They came from all over the place. People who were never cared about birds before suddenly were inspired to care about birds. I mean, just he had this amazing impact. There's no way that story was going to end well because he was eating rats and it's New York City, rodenticides. Like he's going to die of rodenticide poisoning. So just he amazingly lived over a year, just over a year, and then he was found dead at the bottom of a building with lethal levels of rodenticides and pigeon herpes virus. So everything he was eating was killing him.
Oh wow. It's like it
Yeah.
almost like it encapsulates like the beauty the sort of romantic beautiful side of owls, but also you've got like you say the negative side as well. It's kind of that kind of encapsulates the whole picture
Yeah.
there. Oh,
Right.
bless them. Hopefully, well, if owls, as long as they're not eating rodenticide, if do you get like many
Oh,
people getting in touch with you if they find an injured owl or anything like that? Oh.
we don't do rehab. So we generally, if they're in Minnesota, we usually refer them to the Raptor Center in St. Paul. But we do get calls because we're the International Owl Center. We get calls from all over. I'm in Texas. I've got an injured owl, or hey, there's an owl on the ground in Arizona, or I'm on a super yacht off the coast of Florida and an owl landed on our ship. I'm in Indonesia and have a pet owl and it's sick. What do I do? So we get maybe about 80 calls a year. So our role is to kind of give advice and help assess the situation because young owls especially this time of year, are on the ground and are usually fine and don't need intervention. So we can
Hmm.
kind of help figure out, does this bird actually need help, or just put it up in an artificial nest or put it up on a branch or keep your dogs inside, or does it actually need to go to rehab, and where's your closest rehabber, and how do you safely pick it up and transport it? So that's kind of our role. So we do have information on our website for if you find an injured owl to help kind of assess and what do you do? And then we have a link if you're in the United States to the state lists of rehabbers so you can figure out where the closest place is for you to take it. And then if it's a local one, like we had a young barred owl that was, his eyelids had been just bitten heavily by black flies and they were all scabbed over and he wasn't as lively as he should have been. So we have a network of volunteers then to get them up to the Raptor Center because it's 2.5 hours away from us.
Hmm. I wonder what is the website? Just I will put it in the show notes, but if you want to let everyone know where they can find it,
Yeah,
that'd be great.
internationalowlcenter.org. And there's
That
a
simple. Yeah.
boatload of various information on the website if you want to dig around through it.
Mm. Oh, fabulous. And yeah, was there anything else you'd care to mention as well, or like any particular takeaways you'd want listeners to think about?
Um, well, and I only mentioned a few of the things you can do to live an
Oh,
owl-friendly life.
please.
If you
Oh,
go on our
please.
website, I think there's about 20 things listed
Mm.
in there, like, take down soccer nets when they're not in use, take down barbed wire that's never going to be used again, cap chimneys. There's just so many things that you can do, and it's about just being aware of how we impact owls, because for the most part, we're their biggest problem, and we're unaware of how we're doing it. So if everybody can do just one thing different in their life to help owls, it's going to add up and make a difference. So that's kind of our take home point. But the exciting thing is, we're working towards this new center, and the new facility we're building is going to have walk-through aviaries where you literally walk through the side of the owl aviary, and the owls are in these large spaces with natural vegetation with nothing between you and the owls. But the aviaries are designed so the owls don't want to come where the people are. So it's a design that was pioneered in Germany by Wolfgang Scherzinger back in the 1980s and copied by several zoos in Europe, but nobody in the United States is doing it for owls. So we'll kind of set the new gold standard for owl aviaries in the United States. And if people want to donate, they can do that on our website. If they're able to donate in a significant way, you can have an aviary named after you or one of the rooms in the building, and all that information's on our website.
Oh, amazing. And when do you think that will be open and ready to the public?
100% dependent on fundraising. So it's all dependent on that. We already own the 4.5 acres. We've removed all the buildings. We don't have any mortgage on it or anything. We own it free and clear. So we just need to raise a few more $1 million, and then we'll build it.
Yeah, well, I hope anyone listening is able to spare something. That sounds like great.
Helps.
Yeah, no, I want to visit now. So I know where you are, 2.5 hours south of St. Paul. So,
yes.
oh, that's grand. Oh, that's lovely. I've really enjoyed this talk. I've really enjoyed learning about owls. So like I say, I feel like I'm one of those people. I've been quite aware of them, and I know bits and bobs, but no, this has been quite an education.
So have you been to the Scottish Owl Center?
I have not, no, but maybe I should.
Yes. Yeah, they have about 40 different species there. There's probably no place on Earth that has more species of owls than they do there.
Okay. No, I'll again make a note. We'll try and get out there. Nice little day trip overnight.
Yep.
Oh, fabulous. Oh, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
The Bear Den, the American Bear Association podcast, was written and presented by me, Philip Stubley. The music was composed by React Music. Thank you to everyone who has helped make this podcast possible, including Karen Hauserman, Bill Lee, Clary Lee, Stephanie Horner, Donna Brzezinka, Ross Coyer, and Angie Page. You can find out more about the American Bear Association at americanbear.org. You can find Vince Shute Wildlife Sanctuary on Facebook and Instagram. You can ask questions and submit comments about the podcast to peacew@americanbear.org. The ABA is a special circumstance. We do not condone feeding wild animals. If you enjoy this podcast, help support the ABA either by donating, becoming an ABA member, symbolically adopting a bear, or come visit the sanctuary during the season and say hello. And if you do enjoy this, please do us a favour. It'll barely take you a minute. On whatever platform you're listening to this on, please either follow us or click the bell for updates and notifications. Please share with family and friends and rate the podcast, as it all helps us grow and is greatly appreciated.